This is Gene Monterestelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 551, originally aired August 4th, 2021. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today, we're going to spend some time talking about our system, our body, the information it's giving us, and how we interact with it when we want change and transformation. And we're going to be talking about a disposition that I think is super important for us to have in mind when we approach the transformational process. Before we do that, two quick announcements. Number one, we have a free 10-part guide on how you can use tapping to eliminate self-sabotage. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com, click on that big blue button, and every single day for the next 10 days, we will send you one tool that takes less than 5 minutes to do, which will make it easier for you to take action today in a thoughtful, deliberate way. Then at the end of 10 days, after you've tried out all these neat little approaches, you can pick the one or two that work the best for you and use them over and over again so that you can use tapping as a tool to allow you to take the action that you want to live that authentic life that you want to be living. Secondly, I want to thank all of the supporters of the Tapping Q&A podcast. That is an amazing group of people who voluntarily contribute to make sure that you get the opportunity to get this amazing resource. For those of you who are supporters of the podcast, I wanted to make sure you got that email I sent on Monday with a new resource, a new training that I created last week that you can have absolutely free. The other really cool thing about the way the podcast is supported is we take a percentage of the contribution every single month. We put it in Kiva so that we can make loans to small business owners all over the world. The neat thing about Kiva is they are loans, so the money gets paid back, which means we get to loan it out again. And so between the contribution of what came in this month and all of the loans that were repaid, which we're immediately loaning back out again, 52 small businesses all over the world in some small way have been supported because people are investing in the Tapping Q&A podcast and investing in themselves by taking this work seriously. If you'd like to receive bonuses, some gifts for supporting, and like to be a part of this greater cause of making a difference in the world, all you need to do is go to tappingqa.com/support. And once again, thank you to all of the amazing supporters of the Tapping Q&A podcast. As I was trying to come up with a good way to talk about and think about what we're going to talk about today, the line that kind of showed up in my notes as I was doodling, trying to get my head around all of this, was this fact that our body or our system does not have an agenda. And over the course of our conversation, please bear in mind that I am probably going to be bouncing back and forth between the word body and the word system. When I'm using the word system, I'm actually probably speaking about something that's a little more comprehensive than just our physical body. But it's really hard to tell when one part stops and one part begins. And so I'm just talking about our whole being and the things that we experience inside of this physical world. And one of the things that happens when I'm working with my clients and we're trying to create transformation, particularly about things that we're experiencing in the body, be it pain, be it fatigue, be it distraction, be it one of our systems like respiration or digestion not working as well as we would like, there oftentimes can be a real sense of frustration. And the frustration makes sense because we want different, we want better. But the frustration becomes personal. And when I say it becomes personal, we're not frustrated with the circumstance, but we're frustrated with the person or the object that is our body. And the number of times that when I've been dealing with physical issues with my clients, the number of clients that have used the phrase that I feel like my body is letting me down. I feel like my body is betraying me. I even have heard from clients who emotionally, and they know intellectually this is not true, but emotionally, it is as if their body has it out for them, like their body is trying to sabotage them so they can't move forward. Now, it is possible. We can be in a circumstance where we have some secondary gain from being sick. We have some secondary gain from moving forward. And what that means is a secondary gain is a benefit from having a trouble. You know, I had a client one time who was trying to heal herself physically. And we also came to this realization that she said, if I heal, I will no longer be on disability, which means I will no longer be receiving financial assistance, and I don't know if I can survive without it. And so in a circumstance like that, the system is trying to keep us safe. But when I say the body doesn't have an agenda, what I mean by that is it's not trying to do anything other than function. And the way that it is designed to function is to keep us safe and healthy. So as we tease this apart, I think there are three things to keep in mind. The first of all is that our body is a system. And what I mean by that in this particular case is our body is full of processes that have cause and effect relationships. When I put certain things into my body recognizes those things and it does different things. It treats water differently from a piece of fruit. It pieces a piece of fruit differently from a piece of chocolate. It treats a piece of chocolate differently from if I was eating chalk. It's all things that are going into my mouth, and the system is taking that data, which is the thing that is going into my mouth, and based on what it decides it is responding. It is almost like it is a recipe, it is a computer program. When you put certain data in, it does what it's supposed to, and then it gives an output of some sort. And oftentimes, when we are having troubles inside of our system, be it physical, be it the emotions we feel inside of our body, be it the digestion, the respiration that isn't working properly, what is happening is the system is operating in a consistent way. It just isn't operating in a consistent way that is healthy. It's not operating in a consistent way that is optimal in which the way the system is supposed to work. And if you think about a car engine, the way that a car engine works is spark plus oxygen plus fuel are combined. And when those three things combine, it creates an explosion, which makes the car move forward. Like the energy from the explosion is the thing that drives the engine. But if we have too much of something, if we have too much oxygen or if we have too much fuel, the chemical reaction that is happening with the explosion that is creating the energy isn't going to work properly. Therefore, the system isn't going to produce energy in an efficient way, which means either the engine won't run or it will run with really poor fuel efficiency. And so it's a system that is just doing the steps it's supposed to, but because the system is out of whack, it is not operating in an optimal way. And so oftentimes when we have things going on in our body, it's a system just acting like a system, just not in an optimal way. Whenever I am around blossoming and seeding cottonwood trees, I get a really stuffy head and I get this discharge from my nose that is clear and liquidy because my body is producing chemicals to flush the pollen and the spores from the cottonwood tree out of my body to keep me safe. Now, those spores might not actually be deadly or dangerous to me, but my system does not know that. It just says, this is the input, this is the program that we run. This thing comes into the body, we must keep genes safe, therefore we're going to flush it out of the system into this really gross, nasty way. Ways that I never record a podcast because it would be horrifying to listen to me in that particular state. And so the system in this particular scenario does not have an agenda. It's not trying to hurt me. It's just trying to do what it thinks it's supposed to be or what it's programmed to do. And so that's the first thing to recognize is we're stepping in trying to change things that are going on physically inside of our body. The second thing to recognize as we're trying to figure this out is since the system does not have an agenda, what is the reason for the systems? Well, the systems are designed to keep us safe and healthy. And so whenever it sees danger, it has a little program that it runs, and it just runs that program to keep us safe. That's the reason why these programs are created. So when we are dealing with a part of our system that isn't functioning in the way that we want, the really useful question for us to be asking ourselves is, why is this functioning in this particular way? Why does it think it is trying to keep me healthy? So, for example, when I'm feeling physical pain, like I'm feeling physical pain in my ankle, that physical pain is the system saying there is something that isn't working here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you hurt so you know about it. And I'm also going to make you hurt so that you can't go running around on this ankle. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a situation where you've had an injury and it feels like you're back to full strength and everything is awesome. And then you go and you work out on it, and all of a sudden afterwards you realize, oh, it just was pain-free. It wasn't actually all the way healed. The system is giving us a signal saying, don't step on this foot until it is healed. And as it is healing, the pain goes away. But sometimes we can get ahead of what that signal is. So when we are dealing with things inside of the body, a good question for us to ask is, how could this be functioning in such a way that it thinks it is trying to solve a problem, it's trying to keep me safe? And in some situations, that is just my system is trying to keep me safe and it's not functioning properly inside of doing that. And by simply tapping on that, it gives us an entryway into creating transformation. Which leads us into the third point. Oftentimes when we are dealing with things in our system and our body that are not functioning properly, we end up having this huge emotional response. I'm angry at my system. It feels like my system is letting me down. I'm disappointed because I can't go out there and do the things that I want to do because I am sick, I am injured, I am slow, I am foggy-brained, I am whatever those consequences are. And so when that happens, what we end up with is we end up with the issue that is happening in the system. And then we end up with an emotion about the issue, the frustration, the disappointment, the overwhelm, the sadness, the grief over missed opportunities. And when this happens, the emotion that we are feeling, in my mind, becomes this hard candy shell that is around the outside of the issue that is really going on in the body. So when I'm feeling this particular way, when I'm feeling the sadness, the anger, whatever, it's really difficult for me to clearly see what is going on. So the system is working in such a way where it is just a series of programs that are trying to operate in a way to keep us safe and healthy. When it is not functioning properly, it creates pain, it creates dysfunction. And the issue at hand is, why is that the case and what can we do about it? We are in a circumstance where we can have an emotional response to what is going on, which makes it hard for us to see what is going on. So as we go through those 3 points, what it does is it then gives us the ability to figure out how we want to tap on one of these issues and transform one of these issues in our system. So we start with that third point. We start with the furthest point out, and we tap on the emotion that we are feeling. You know, if I'm frustrated and disappointed and feel like my body's letting me down, I tap on that particular thing. Right now, I'm in a lot of pain, which is preventing me from doing the things that I love. I'm missing opportunity, and I'm really frustrated with my system for holding me back. I'm angry at my body for being in pain and breaking down and undermining me in all of this. And the emotion that I'm feeling right now is just pointing to the fact that I'm missing out on opportunities. It's pointing to the fact that I don't like being in pain. And so I appreciate the fact that these emotions exist. I appreciate the fact that these emotions are pointing out what is going on. I hear these emotions loud and clear, and therefore the emotions have permission to be released. And so by starting with the emotion about the issue, it immediately softens the issue that we are dealing with. And that little impromptu script that I did right there might not be enough. Like, it might take you a lot of time to go after the emotions of frustration, disappointment, being let down, anger, betrayal, whatever is coming up in that particular scenario. But before you go after and tap on what is going on in the system itself, we really need to get as clear as we can about those emotions, because those emotions are a barrier to us actually getting to the root cause. The more we can clear that up, the easier it is for us to get to the other side. You know, oftentimes I think about the emotions about the issue. It starts off as a brick wall. And as it disintegrates and I tap on that emotion, instead of being a brick wall, it becomes a really strong headwind that I'm trying to cut through, or I'm walking through water, where I'm able to move forward and get to the issue, but I'm doing it really slowly and it's hard. And when I clear the emotion about the issue, I can walk up to the issue itself. So then we get to that second point. So after we've dealt with the emotion about the issue, we recognize the fact that the system is just over-functioning in its efforts to keep us safe and healthy. And so if there's not a clear and obvious reason why it's doing what it's doing, then the first place that we start is, I appreciate the fact that my system is doing the best that it can and it's trying to keep me safe and healthy. And the things that it is doing right now, the pain that it is in, the thing it is preventing me from, the thing from the outside that I recognize is not functioning properly, the system is trying to function properly. It's just working the system the way that it is. The second piece of that is we then want to see if there's any secondary gain to holding on to this particular issue. And so we go back to our favorite two-question procedure of figuring out what is going on. We tune into the piece that is there. If it's a physical pain, if it's a tightness in my body, if it's a system that is not functioning properly, and I tune into that part of my system and I just ask it, what is it afraid of? And what proof does it have that that could go wrong? And in those two questions, if there is secondary gain for us holding on to this, if the body thinks it is keeping us safe by staying in the state of dysfunction, those questions are going to uncover those things, which are then going to give me amazing things to tap on, because then I can now see, well, if I go out there and fail, I'm going to be embarrassed. And so if my knee is hurt, I can't go out there and try, which means I can't go out there and fail. So it gives us the opportunity to unpack and uncover that secondary gain so we can step into it into a more deliberate way. Then the last bit, we go back to this idea of, as we went from 1, 2, 3, and we're tapping 3, 2, 1, this idea that it's a system that's trying to do its best. I love tapping on the phrases, my system is a healing machine. My system was made for transformation and health. I give my system permission to let go of and release anything known, unknown, and hidden that is preventing me from moving forward. And by doing this, what we're able to do is we're able to put ourselves in a position where we're empowering the system to function, but to look at what is going on and to transform those things. Because sometimes we need to re-remind the system that it needs to change and move forward in a different way. There is actually, it's almost 5 minutes long, a tapping script just about physical health and symptom health. If you are on the website, if you go to podcast 195, the podcast itself is actually called Staying Healthy During Cold and Flu Season. But the reality is the tapping script, and there's a written version of it there, episode 195, is for anything health related. And so if you're in a situation where you're dealing with these particular things, just step back through those exact same things. We deal with the emotion about the issue. We tap on the function that is dysfunctioning and figure out what is underneath it. We then tune in to the healing power of the system. And if we do that, we're going to be able to transform and recalibrate the system to work in a way that is way more functional and way more healthy. Because again, the system does not have an agenda other than wanting us to be safe and healthy. And sometimes it functions in a way that is the opposite of safety, that is the opposite of health. But it's not trying to do that. Its agenda isn't undermine us. Its agenda is safe and healthy. And when we approach it this way, it allows us to create transformation. So I hope you enjoyed that thought, that approach, that disposition. It's been on my mind recently, just as my body has been transforming as we're getting into summer and I'm getting to do a lot more movement again. I'm much more aware of what is going on in my physical body. It's also an issue that's come up a couple of times recently with clients, so I thought you would find it interesting. If you know someone in your life who would appreciate a conversation about the way our systems function and how they can use that for their own personal transformation, please be our ambassador, pass it along. Don't spam your inbox intended to everybody in the world, but you might know one or two people who could really appreciate this. and pass it along. Again, if you pass this along to them and they don't actually listen to it, the fact that you've sent them an email saying, hey, I was thinking of you today. I know you want to be healthier. This might help you do that. The fact that you have thought of them, the fact that you've told them that this is something that they might enjoy will actually make a difference in their day, even if they never hit play, even if they never engage with this. So really think of a couple of people you can reach out to today and just say, hey, this might be useful for you. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. In podcasting parlance, subscribe is always free. All you need to do is search Tapping Q&A wherever you get audio online. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, Audible. If you don't know how to find any of those places, if you go to tappingpodcast.com, there's big icons. You can just click on the one for the place that you consume audio, and it'll take you directly to the show. If you got questions, you got comments, you got a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, I would love to hear from you, and I can always be reached, Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com. Just let me know what you'd like us to cover in the future. Some of the best episodes, some of the best interviews, and we're going to be doing a bunch of interviews in the fall, have come from recommendations of listeners just like you. I would love to hear from you and how I can continue to serve you better. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrastelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrastelli Tapping Q&A. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrastelli and Tapping Q&A.